live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. On this Wednesday evening, Steve Pulaski right here, joined by Dominic Guanzon. We love and miss our good friend, Joe Viso. He is on week 2 of his 2-week hiatus. He'll be back next week, God willing, and the creek don't rise. He'll be back for our review of Space Jam: A New Legacy, which, judging by the very early reviews, man, he's going to be in a good mood to talk about this one. We got that on the docket next week, but we got plenty for you this week in regards to topics. First things first, Dominic, big shout out to him, manning the controls over there, doing the best job that he can do, which is better than my best. I'll say that much. Dom, how are you doing today, man? Well, I thought so. Yes. Yeah, you, me, and Joe are like all the common denominator. We all have different hairstyles, but we all have thick hair. And it's the same thing. Like when it gets thick enough, like mine grows out. I have the worst hair of the three of us. And like it grows out and it gets curly. And it's just like you just said, it's a heat trap, to say the least. Yeah, really. Yeah, I try to. Again, it doesn't even out. The goatee doesn't even out down the middle, which is frustrating. But like, I've actually, this is the longest I think I've went. I don't think I've clean shaved in about over a year. You know, I keep it going. Like I said, I still get carded for booze though. Yeah. But anyway, before we get into the topics today, we're going to be reviewing Black Widow. That's the big review today. Made just a little bit of money over the weekend, so chances are you saw it in some capacity. You know, box office results of that. We're going to talk about that because Disney did something shocking in terms of the box office numbers this weekend by releasing the Disney Plus figures.
Yes.
That never happened. No streaming service, no video on demand. No studio's ever released a video on demand numbers before opening weekend, at least. So this is huge. And there's a lot to dissect with that.
So we're going to
try to give ample time to that.
They wouldn't do that if they weren't confident about it. So something to
Seriously,
show off.
I think there's a subtle reason behind this. I don't think this is going to become the norm quite yet, which is frustrating. But we'll dive into that later. Oh yeah, and Drake Bell's in the headlines. We're going to touch on that too. I don't like leading the shows with icky topics, but this one is going to deserve some attention. But first, before we get into all that, how about a word from the good book? How about a word from?
We're going to do this bit now.
Yes, well, I told you for as long as I'm reading it. So Dom, why don't you explain to the masses what we're doing while I find a good page?
So Steve is reading the novelization of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, written by Quentin Tarantino. And it's beautiful paperback, airport style, airport shelf kind of style.
Drugstore spinner rack is what I call it.
That's so true. And we've been doing a kind of a bit here where Steve will just open up to any random page and just find the spiciest word or the spiciest passage here. What page are we on today, Steve?
All right, I'm not gonna do both. I'm gonna stick to page 283.
Okay.
Stick to page 283. I think we got a clean page here. There's no italics.
Whoa.
There's no swear words.
What's the spiciest? Doesn't have to be a swear necessarily. Or is it just a mundane page?
Well, what I do like is the one line from the character says, "Take the bottle with ya," and "witcha" is spelled phonetically WITCHA. That I like. Yeah, there's nothing really. I'm telling you, there's really nothing spicy. Something about smash. And I have not read this page either. This is further in the book than I am. But something about peanuts from the pile of smashed cells. Um, Snorted. I guess that's kind of a spicy word. Yeah,
That's
this is
probably
the very, very bland, disappointing, underwhelming page. And I did not progress in this as much as I'd wanted to throughout the last week. I think I read like maybe 50, 60 pages, not very much.
I feel bad because I don't want to spoil the book for you. Like you open to the random page, it's like, oh, this is a critical plot point in 2 words.
Well, I'm already more than halfway done with it, and I can say
Okay.
this. Not to make, I'm probably going to do maybe a mini book review when I'm done completely.
Go for it.
But the one thing I will say about this, though, is it's hard to spoil things about the book when skipping ahead and doing like what we do, because every chapter is something different.
Okay.
Every chapter is different.
That kind of book.
I'm not going to say there's not continuity, but it's episodic.
Sure.
It's very episodic in that
sounds cool.
regard. Yeah, it is. Like the one chapter you had more information about, well, Rick Dalton's encounter with that little girl that was a popular moment in the movie on the set of Lancer. And then in the same chapter, you had Cliff Booth talking about his fight with Bruce Lee. And then the following chapter is Sharon Tate going to see her own movie.
Mm-hmm.
And now this next chapter I just read actually was Rick Dalton having a talk with the director of the show Lancer. So like it jumps around enough that like it's hard to really spoil it with just like random pages. They need to come back to Charles Manson though. There's been like 5 chapters now and they haven't come back to Manson yet. And
He's in the
I find the
shadows.
Manson stuff. I find Manson to be like one of the most interesting parts of this book. It's still my favorite chapter. Is I think I mentioned it last week was Pussycat's Creepy Crawl, which is a whole chapter, like 20 pages dedicated to one of Manson's lackeys breaking into an elderly couple's house. That was the best chapter so far.
You said you didn't want to start off icky, but here we are.
Exactly. So let's get into more uplifting news. Yeah, right. Drake Bell is in the news. Now, is it just me or did this story come completely out of left field like 3 weeks ago?
So yeah, no one really cares too much about Drake Bell except for fleeting nostalgia. Before this story, no one really cared about Drake Bell except for fleeting nostalgia moments or the memes. Honestly, it's like Drake and Josh memes are actually pretty moderate on the internet. I know there's that one bit on YouTube where it's like they're stuck in the treehouse and Josh goes, Drake. And then Josh does his like head tilt. It's like, where's the door? And then the bit is that they're stuck in the treehouse without a way out. Somehow, I forget how they get there.
They raise the last wall before they cut the door.
That's right. Yeah. And a few other memes too surrounding Drake and Josh, but other than that, no one, not in the farthest possible away from the zeitgeist you could be. Unfortunately, now, Drake Bell is back in the spotlight here.
Yeah, and it's not good to say the least. Like I said, this story broke 3 weeks ago. We weren't going to touch it then because there was no sentencing and it was very scant on the details, as these things generally are. Anytime you're talking about sexual assault, anytime you're talking about child endangerment, you're, for better or for worse, not going to get the gritty details of it until something is settled, someone is charged, something like that. As we've learned, I think, over the last 5 years, kind of how the media cycle of these things generally works. And Drake Bell was sentenced, I believe it was it Monday? I think it was Monday.
Yeah.
On charges. He was facing felony counts of attempted child endangerment and a misdemeanor charge of disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. Now, these are lofty charges. Obviously, they're felonies. But he received, a lot of people were thinking prison time, and it was almost going to be like imminent, I think, but he is rich, and he got 2 years probation on child endangerment charges on top of 200 hours of community service. Now, he was sentenced in Cuyahoga Falls in Ohio, but like the privilege itself, he can complete those 200 hours in California, where one of the places he resides.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And I sent when we were reading off this, I sent the AP article because like I said, working at this radio station, we use AP, and I've grown to really like AP as a news source.
Same here.
Just as a matter of fact, just a matter of fact blurb style news source.
Just going to take this moment to plug AP. I'm not a big fan of getting my breaking news from CNN, NBC, Fox, whatever. Because oftentimes they throw, well, first of all, the websites are just absolute trash. horrible. Automatic players, all this crap in the corners, and you know you often have to use
Pop-up ads. They're
Yeah.
so ungainly.
have to use an ad blocker just to work with them. And then if you do, you can't read you can't read whatever. But AP, I do use an ad blocker, so if they do have ads, I ain't seeing them, and they don't care that I see them. Thankfully. And yeah, it is breaking news. Newswire services like AP and Reuters are usually the best and probably the most neutral. Not to say that they're flawless. There have been cases where they have some sloppy
AP
journalism.
on like the scale, AP has a slight left lean, but only if you read it a lot. Like as somebody like me who reads it a lot, you can kind of see, but for the most part, they are very up the middle. They're very reliable, and they were with this story too. Essentially, this story involved a victim who was 12 years old at the time. And the victim says that's when the grooming, that's what began with said Drake Bell. And the relationship between them turned sexual when she was 15. Now, for context, too, this was apparently in 2017. So Drake is 35 now, I believe. So again, he was about 31, then 30, 31, somewhere around there.
Doesn't make it better at all.
No, I'm not. I'm just giving context
I know.
to the situation. This is not a not all men rant, believe me. But the child endangerment charges, this is interesting. They were related to the concert where Bell apparently, quote unquote, violated his duty of care. I guess this victim apparently frequented several of his concerts, at least 3, I think, by her statement, 3. And I don't know if she tagged along or went there. Like the details are still kind of fuzzy on this whole thing. You know, obviously the victim hasn't been identified. She's not chosen to come forward, for the better, I would probably say. And now the main takeaway that I just want to mention, I'll throw it over to you, Dom, because I know the angle. I think they know the angle you're going to take it. But I want to say this, though. What this recontextualizes, I mean, think what you want about Drake Bell, obviously, going forward, because people certainly are. He's already lost shows because of this. But back in 2020, in November of 2020, it was one of the most bizarre news stories, and I don't feel like it got a ton of coverage. But Drake Bell announced that he was going to move to Mexico and change his stage name to Drake Campana and play sort of Mexican-infused rock and roll. Now, the thing about this whole ordeal is that it recontextualizes that move. Was he doing it as a career move? Because honestly, I've listened to a lot of Drake Bell's music. He even fuses a lot of different styles. He never seemed as somebody who really had great Mexican influence in his music. I don't know what the guy likes. I really don't, you know, music-wise. But at the same time, though, the more you think about it, and this is what I can't get past, that whole Drake Campana stunt, because that's really what it was a stunt at the end of the day. Like, I have every reason to believe he was fleeing the country for charges. This recontextualizes that tremendously. I don't think that's a coincidence. And that's my main takeaway from this whole thing, is that like that bizarre thing was almost like probably him detecting, you know, proverbial shit hitting the fan and then darting to Mexico to try to flee the charges unsuccessfully, I'd say.
You know, I'm going to show this up on the screen right now. This tweet on the Drake Campana handle was sent out June 29th. And it's in Spanish, but it's him announcing that he has a son and a wife he's been married to for 3 years, Tres años. Yes. And it's like, that's so bizarre. Why would you, well, one, why would you hide all that stuff? And two, for so long, I mean, sure, you can say like avoiding the spotlight and stuff. I get that to a degree, but then the context is everything, right? To put that tweet out there at that time, right before everything went public, or rather, I think it was in between the story breaking and June 29th. I get my timelines right here, but the context there is it's like a Kevin Spacey move, right? Where it's like Kevin Spacey got accused of sexual assault, and then he came out as gay, you know, just to throw off the headlines, right? And in that same way, Drake Bell did the same thing here. This is really bizarre, but really, when you hear the story of from the victim here, It's really bad. 12 years old. There's no she's 17 and Drake Bell was like 25 and whatever. No. 12 years old. Drake was 30, out of the spotlight. So it wasn't even at like, the height of his career and in the public spotlight, and he was like, seeped in drugs, and it was just a wild time for all. Not that would excuse anything. I don't know what Nickelodeon is like. Nickelodeon Hotel is like on a Saturday night, but
Oof.
it's just bad, man. Like when you 12 years old, when you cross that line, that is a very clear line, particularly these days. Back then too, and well before that, but particularly these days, you don't do that, man. You are setting yourself up for failure. When it comes to sexual assault and protecting minors, it's also safe to say that adults should want to protect themselves as well. So what I'm saying is, you don't put yourself in that situation. You don't start long text conversations with 12-year-olds when you're 30 plus, right? You don't do that. I have there are family and friends who are under 18, and it's like, I have a hard rule. I do not add you on social media until you're over 18. Not because you never know when like an errant joke might, be taken out of context or something. And in my opinion, protect yourself as well, right? Don't be don't be with a child you don't know in a room by yourself for long periods of time. And what I'm getting at here is that there's a very clear line here that Drake has crossed, and I don't think there's any defenders here. For every celebrity, there's a defender. I don't see that many in this case, and I don't think there really can. I mean, he pled guilty, right? So 200 hours of community service. He's learned his lesson. I don't know. No, yeah.
2 years probation, like, it feels, you can't help but feel soft in that regard. And I know you're right though, and like, I'll say this too, like, just to wrap things up, it's like, I just can't rationalize that or grasp that. You're 30 years old. You've got the world by the balls at the end of the day. You got all the money. You never need to work again. You'll have syndication money coming out your ass for years. You've got a record deal. You've got multiple albums and music and tours, and you're screwing around with 12-year-olds. I just don't I cannot grasp that at all, because at the end of the day too, I mean, the moral disgust of it all to begin with, but it's like, these guys that, what do you have like in common with that great of an age gap?
Nothing.
And like that, that's what I cannot rationalize too. Like, it's icky. It's icky. I felt like we needed to touch on it, and I think we did very, matter of factly. Shout out to AP for the stories again, or the scoop. But
yeah, and
that's where I'll say
let me be clear. It's not like you can't have a healthy, you can't have a healthy relationship with a kid, right? So, like, I have healthy relationships with those family members and friends who are under 18, but I put myself in situations where it's like, yeah, we're with family, we're in a large party and stuff, and I don't do anything stupid, right? Don't cross any lines, and all that stuff. And you know what? Let me end with this. Aside from the fact that the greatest victim here is the person who was assaulted, another auxiliary victim is Josh Peck's YouTube channel. I just want to put that out there. That dude has not posted anything in 7 months, and just continue to lay low, Josh Peck, because that sucks, dude. I'm gonna assume that he's innocent unless something else happens, but nothing has surfaced. And hopefully nothing will, because of course I hope nothing has happened there. But yeah, dude,
I don't
it
think
sucks
so.
because
they haven't been close in years. They
did a few like reunion videos, and they were fun. But it sucks. It just sucks.
I don't think he's ever been on tour with him. I don't know.
Looks like a very positive dude, that Josh Peck.
Indeed. Except for Mean Creek, that clip from Mean Creek that always resurfaces of him on the boat, except for that clip, I saw that. That was I saw that on TikTok, and then it got taken down just a couple of days ago. I love that movie. That's the most popular clip from a movie nobody's ever seen. Go watch Mean Creek with Josh Peck. Nobody's ever seen that movie. I have. I actually sat through it. It's a great film. But anyway, Black Widow, there is
just
a
want to
new
say,
Marvel movie.
we'll restart again. My hiccups might have just come back, just so you know, because I thought I got rid of them. They might have just come
Dom's
back.
Dom's got the hiccups over here, man.
They're back.
Somebody needs to. And you seem like you got the animated hiccups too. You seem like the ones where the whole like room jerks.
Yeah, people think I'm like overdoing it. No, I'm trying my best to stay still, and it will it hurts because it's it
hurts.
Yeah, it hurts if you don't release the energy. You're just like holding stiff. There
I saw that. I saw there's a straw you can buy. You should probably look this up. I don't think these.
That's
are
the remedy. Yeah.
No, I'm serious. No, here's what happens. They say these things actually legitimately work.
I think they do.
They're a hiccup straw, and what it does is it realigns like your diaphragm or something like that. Like when you like suck water through it or something. And people say it works. I just actually saw that on one of the radio station prep sites a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you're gonna hear that. You're just gonna enjoy that for this whole review. But yeah, Chelsea says, it's, suck air in and out through a straw, which I'm gonna try later. I thought I got rid of it. I did for the beginning of the show, but one bad gasp. And anyway, let's talk Black Widow.
Black Widow, brand new Marvel movie, the kickoff of Phase 4 as far as the films go, not including the TV series, because we've already gone through what now? We've gone through WandaVision, we've gone through the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We've gone through now Loki. I think Loki just wrapped up, I'm pretty sure. Hawkeye's next, and this one kind of kickstarts Hawkeye, which is going to be the next thing. I got to hand it to Marvel. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm getting tired of Marvel movies just in general. Even though this one was kind of fun to see in a theater again after 2 years. I'm getting tired of Marvel in general, but let it never be said that Marvel doesn't plan these things to a T. Because this movie's out, Black Widow's out. I would assume Hawkeye's probably going to launch in August or September, which is a perfect continuation of this series. And there's a few others as well. A few other TV series they got in the pipeline the next while. I'm most looking forward to the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. That will be a thing next year. I am most looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to that camp, that that self-awareness. There's a degree of like, oh no, are they gonna overdo it or like too on the nose? But if I trust the Guardian series to have that to kind of nail that humor, and also like, you know what, we could use it. Whatever, I'm down for it, man. I actually did watch the Star Wars holiday special on YouTube. It is available. You can actually view it on YouTube, and it is a time. I would strongly suggest taking the time to watch at least part of it. Holy crap, that is an experience. Star Wars holiday special. Anyway, yeah. I'm just glad that there is a superhero entertainment company that at least looks like it has its shit together, and that is Marvel. Say what you will, maybe it's formulaic. It definitely is formulaic, and it's samey and whatever, tropey as hell. But at least they have their shit together, and I respect that on a fundamental level, as opposed to some other superhero entity companies. But yeah, let's talk about Black Widow.
Black Widow, though. Yep, kicks off Phase 4, and man, you know what? I just say this, and this is not an original take by any means, but God, does it suck that like Black Widow finally gets her movie after she's dead.
Yep.
It finally happened. It finally happened for her to get her own movie when she's no longer alive in the universe. And I'll say this too, just when you thought F9 would be this year's quintessential summer blockbuster about family, here comes Black Widow to really keep the tradition alive. This is going to be a running thing this year.
I as soon as they started talking about family in Black Widow, I was like, oh my God, we just got out of the meme thicket of all the Dom memes where it's like, yeah, family. Oh my God. But thankfully it wasn't overdone too much, I thought, compared to Fast 9.
No, it wasn't. But like for blockbusters now, like it's either family or grief are the main themes. It's either family or grief. That's pretty much the standard there. first things first, and I'll throw it over to you. I think that this movie is at its best when it plays like kind of an old school espionage movie, kind of like Mission Impossible. It has very much Captain America Winter Soldier vibes too, which makes sense because I think it kind of continues off of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, if I'm not mistaken.
It's
It
in
kind
that
of
like
continues
post
off that.
Civil. It's in that immediate aftermath of Civil War, which is a Captain America movie, and yeah, for sure. I think the thing with Marvel is that all their movies are action, just flat out. I don't think there's a single one that I can think of that isn't. Every Marvel, maybe the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special when that comes out, but we'll see. It's all action. It's all gunfights. It's all martial arts, whatever. And occasionally they get a flavoring, right? So at their core, they're action, but then they get a flavor of in Winter Soldier. It was politics and espionage flavoring, right? In Thor, it's mythology kind of flavoring to it, and Doctor Strange, magic and flavoring. But at the end of the day, they're all action movies, and that's where the sameness complaint does come into. And Black Widow, in the description for the movie, I believe they say like spy thriller. They call it a spy thriller and like a espionage, but not getting a lot of espionage here, to be honest with you, or spy stuff. This is not Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's the aesthetic. It's an aesthetic thing,
Yeah,
if anything. Yes. It's definitely an aesthetic based sort of thing. And
Mission
I mean,
Impossible is accurate. That is an accurate descriptor.
Mission Impossible and even James Bond, because you do see, I think there's a James Bond clip. If my eyes didn't deceive me, there's a James Bond clip in the background on a TV. I think
it was a Roger
scene.
Moore one. Yeah,
Roger Moore. Yeah, thank you. I wasn't crazy.
The silliest one.
Yes. Yeah. The goofiest one that they picked. And I'll say this though. This feels though leaner than a lot of the Marvel movies. It's got a straightforward plot for the most part. It's got a really core dynamic group of characters. You have Scarlett Johansson, obviously, as Natasha. You have Florence Pugh as Yelena. You have David Harbour and Rachel Weisz as their surrogate parents. And then you have a clear villain. I guess you could say a clear villain too in Ray Winstone's Dreykov, and you have also the Taskmaster, Olga Kurylenko, who's not a good I don't think a very good villain, but it's Marvel at this point.
It's probably one of the most disgusting villains we've ever seen, but not really the best constructed or well written or constructed or within context, but certainly one of the most disgusting. It was like Harvey Weinstein levels of disgusting in terms of how this guy operates.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but like the thing with Taskmaster though, too, is that you have those like photographic reflexes angle though that makes her reflect like the motions.
That was like a two-scene gimmick that immediately wore itself out.
Pretty much. And then you have, like you said, then you have like the, and the internet's already taken and ran with this, the Harvey Weinstein parallels there.
I did too. And honestly, it's very clear. I mean, the dude even kind of looks like him, not gonna lie. They made him look like him.
He's got the same shave and everything.
Yeah, the same kind of like pudgy, disgusting.
Like going back to clips of it though, like I looked up some clips before after I wrote the review and stuff, just to recontextualize some things. And I'm like, yeah, this is definitely like who they were going for, to say the least. But I mean, it's a simple story though. It draws on inspiration from, I think, a genre that really ages well and gracefully. And it's always going to be relevant, that espionage angle too, of like, regardless of whatever is happening in the world, there's always going to be foreign conflict, to say the least. So like this ages well in that respect too. And I'll be honest too. I think the standout performer here is Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh was easily my favorite part of this movie. She is great. She is believably Russian. She's got that thick tongue to her. And I know I've been talking a lot here, so I'm gonna throw it over to you, D. You give your thoughts.
No, honestly, I was gonna make a point to mention her because first and foremost, her accent. I mean, look, we don't really know what is a true Russian accent. I know I have a friend that is a Russian foreign exchange student, and she has an accent that is not at all, like what you see in the movies, because Russia's a big place, so there's hundreds of dialects and accents just like there are in America. But Just something about her charisma and her charm, and yeah, that accent was actually, I don't know if it was authentic at all, but it was really easy on the ears. It was damn, dude. Her snark with that Russian twist to it, or that's Slavic. I'll just say Slavic kind of twist to it, was so damn good. Holy shit, dude. The scene where she's pointing out Black Widow's like very outward motions and like how showy she is with her moves. It's like, what is this? Why do you do this? I'm like, God damn, that had me cracking up, dude, because and like the build up to all those scenes are actually pretty well done. It's very easy to get the Marvel humor, and despite me putting that in quotes, it is a thing, and it can be a curse. It can be a definitely a bad thing at times. You know, in some movies it's good, like Guardians. In other movies, it doesn't work at all. I was gonna say Last Jedi, but that's kind of a different twist and angle. But you know what I'm talking about. But here they definitely they nailed it, because it was dry and it was good, and it was just fun to see her. You know, it was fun to see her have fun, because in the story, in the plot, she breaks free of a chemical hypnotism kind of thing, and it's just her discovering everything is super cool. So yeah, dude, more than Black Widow, a little overshadowed, to not completely, but to a degree. She's definitely the standout for me. It was fun.
No, I agree. And I will say, I'll give props to, on top of Florence Pugh, who you nailed really everything I wanted to say about that performance. I'll add in David Harbour too. I think he's great comic relief in this. He's comic relief, but he's a character as well. And I think that, elevates him to one of Marvel's better comic relief vessels, especially the prison sequence when he gets broken out of prison and they're flying in the chopper to escape him, Natasha and Yelena. I thought that was one of the best sequences, just in terms of dialogue and banter in the whole thing.
Dude, if you really sit back and like look at the plot, we won't spoil anything, but if you look at like how the story goes, dude, he kind of does nothing. If you think about it, he's all
no,
talk,
he doesn't,
and he just doesn't do it, because like his thing. He's actually the strongest out of all of them in a one-on-one fight. Unless he gets taken out in some other way. But in terms of raw strength, he is a super soldier. He can kick ass, quite handily. But yeah, if you think about it, all the three other mains do way more than him, and he just talks a lot of shit through the whole movie. But I totally dug it, dude. David Harbour is killing it. Obviously, he is a caricature of a Russian, which is fine, because even in the universe that is Marvel, the Red Guardian was kind of a character. He's like it's just Soviet copycat of Captain America, literally. So in that way, he plays with it too, and it's really fun to see.
Yeah. I thought he was very strong. I think the core four here is great. Johansson, Pugh, Harbour, and Wise. I think they're all great here. And that's what makes this movie feel so lean. I think that also helps it too, is that there's this cut and dry sort of nuclear family, for lack of a better term. And it doesn't allow itself to get too distracted. It also doesn't really introduce other heroes. Like, I love Civil War, but Civil War, I think, is one of Marvel's best of the MCU, at least in my opinion.
Me too.
But it occasionally, if there was one detriment to that, it felt a little cluttered, just because of how many heroes that were in that one movie too, that had to get some screen time. That was also when we got introduced to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This one feels much more trimmed down and much slimmer of a movie.
Yeah, for sure. I can even excuse the bloatedness feeling of bloatedness in Civil War to a degree, just because, what other movies can you say have gotten this far and have this opportunity to do what it's doing?
I completely agree.
So in that way, I forgive it. But yeah, in contrast to that movie, Black Widow is it's a welcome antithesis to that. And honestly, this is the first Marvel movie feature film post Endgame, right? Or did I miss something?
No, this is Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oh, you're right. All right, I take it back.
That came out in July of 19,
Okay.
and that was that was the last Marvel movie we've got. That was, this is the first one we've gotten since Far From Home. It's been a full 2 years. But
even just overall,
I could forgive you. I could forgive you because that was kind of like the spritzer after Endgame.
But even after all that, just everything kind of calming down, and I'm sure. Well, we'll see. I hope Marvel throws in a curveball and does something cool with it. But I'm guessing that as formulaic as they are, the culmination will be some big, come together and big CGI slugfest like they all are. But this is a nice contrast to that, is what I'm saying. And when the four are finally together, I thought it might get overwrought, particularly when they introduce Rachel Weisz's character. I actually forgot her character name, just because I only see Rachel Weisz. Not gonna lie, I actually watched The Mummy recently, and damn, that's a good movie. And Rachel Weisz has always been killing it. Honestly, I never saw Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone period piece. I think they were nominated for Oscars, each of them. But I heard that they absolutely killed it in that. The Amateur? No, the Favorite. The Favorite?
The Favorite. Yes. Okay, that's right. I'm thinking Love and Friendship or something. Yeah. That's the Yorgos Lanthimos.
Did you watch that?
I did. That was good. Olivia Colman is in that as well.
I want to watch that now.
Weird period piece movie. That's a weird movie, but it's fun.
I want to watch it now after watching this, because I'm like, damn, yeah, Rachel Weisz, not ups and downs, but just in and out of the spotlight. And dude, I want more.
She's one of those people who's done a ton of stuff, and she's gotten awards and stuff, and she's gotten nominations. She's one of those people that's done a ton of stuff, but she still feels like more low key than I think her filmography would suggest.
It's funny. We've been talking about the other three mains here, but Black Widow herself, Scarlett Johansson, Tasha Romanoff. It's like, do you feel like she got overshadowed here a bit?
Definitely. No, I brought that up in my review too. I said she does get overshadowed. She finally gets her own movie, and she almost feels like a supporting character in it. And that's the great irony about this whole thing. It kicks off phase 4. It's the 24th movie in the ever-expanding cinematic universe. And not only does it come after Natasha's dead, but it also sometimes feels that like Natasha is a supporting character in her own movie. And it's kind of an ironic start to phase 4 on that fact.
If anything, you could view it as a passing of the torch on a removed way, but not in a way that feels very well. I mean, because
I give you that pass the torch. I say give the whole goddamn cinematic universe to Florence Pugh at this juncture. That's right. I'll pass the torch. You know what I mean?
It sucks because it's like, damn, Florence Pugh is being a better Russian spy than Scarlett Johansson. I don't mean to shit on Scarlett Johansson here.
She's not bad, but Florence Pugh is on another level.
I mean, it's the writing too, because because they took this approach. They had to give these other three main characters the spotlight, and I get that, and it did pay off because it was entertaining. But just as a Black Widow movie, I mean, honestly, the real fault here is that it took this long. It's after Endgame. It's post the big, generational moment that we all have, and it's like, oh man, it just sucks that Black Widow couldn't get in on that before, and be part of that buildup and make a cleaner passing of the torch. But hey, here we are now. It's also weird thinking about how it's like, okay, so this is after Civil War, but before Infinity War. So it's like, okay, cool. I guess whenever you rewatch Infinity War, you're gonna think, okay, so that all happened, and she just has to live with that now. But that's in the back of her character's mind. But that's always been a problem with Marvel. So.
Yeah, don't look now. The first Avengers movie is 9 years old. Don't look now. The first Avengers movie is 9 years old. Like we are going on now. The first Iron Man movie's 13. Iron Man's going through puberty now. Oh like it's hard. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Like they've been at this 13 years. They've been at this. I'll tell you right now. They've been at this. They started a year before me. They've been at this about a few months longer than I've been writing film reviews.
Look, I know we've been dedicating a lot of like meta talk on Marvel in this Black Widow review, but I think that kind of says something in and of itself. It's like, yeah, the four mains here are really fun. Other than that, though, it's kind of a cut and paste kind of Mission Impossible almost to a degree, at least in its moment to moment. And even in the culmination, it's like, okay, cool, you have a message of empowerment, I guess. It rings a little shallow. But you know, at the very least, the character gets her moment well, I guess, well, yeah, I won't spoil anything, but she gets her moment. And in that way, it is satisfying for a lot of fans. I'm sure it will be. But personally, it did felt kind of cookie cutter Mission Impossible. And you know, if you were like to throw all the Mission Impossible movies plus Black Widow, where does it rank? I would put several Mission Impossibles above this. To be frank with you, if we have to make that comparison at all, if that's even fair to say.
I think my big negative, if I have one really, is that like, because the thing is, like, at the end, when I walked out of it and I was really rehashing it in my mind, I was like, everything is good, nothing is really great except for Florence Pugh. I would say everything is good. There's not much great here. I will say I was not a huge fan of the editing here. I think the editing does this movie some disservice at times.
I think so too.
I don't think you don't get a great like full sense of full range of motion, much less a sense of placement during a lot of the action scenes. And Kate Shortland, she's good at capturing the choreography for the most part. I think she's really undercut by the editing. The only negative with her is that there's a lot of close-ups. I noticed that in some of the action scenes. There's a lot of close-ups, and I think that prohibits that like full range of motion I was mentioning too. I think the editing in this movie too, there's got to be some unwritten law in Hollywood that like in an action movie or a superhero movie, there can't be a cut longer than 3 damn seconds. You know, there's got to be something. They must get like fined or something if that's the case.
So I think it's
on display here.
Any chance I get to plug the YouTube channel, Every Frame of Painting, the Jackie Chan one, which is I think it's his biggest one. They go into you know, how Jackie Chan does stunts and action scenes compared to everyone else in Hollywood, and it ultimately just comes down to time, money, and perfectionism. And you know, Jackie Chan is of course the real deal, the realest of deals. He is a true stunt master, a true martial artist, and all that. And you know, a lot of the times the actors you're working with in the rest of Hollywood are not that. So they don't have the time and the money to, well, I think they have the money, but the timetables to become that level and to dedicate redoing sequences a billion times. So then they have to cut it up and do a lot of tricks. Whereas Jackie Chan could just straight up do the whole thing. Not perfectly at the first time, but he will do it a billion times to get it right. And that's the whole thesis on that, if you've watched that YouTube video, which I highly recommend. But I think it's another case of that here, which, again, cookie cutter kind of thing in a Mission Impossible style, or like just in a general Marvel style. That's kind of what you're dealing with. But I will say this, though. I don't know who directed that opening montage. So after the opening scene, and then it goes into like the montage of the indoctrination and stuff and all the girls going through training. I thought that was really cool. That was actually a pretty damn good montage. I don't know if the director did that or if that was given to a second unit, but that was every time.
Might as well credit Kate Shortland on that because she does have her name on the piece. Might as well give it to her.
There you go. But anytime someone uses Nirvana in a movie, I can't help but think that's a little cringe. Except here, they actually. They did manage to pull it off pretty damn well. And I think Smells Like Teen Spirit in particular was kind of it's a bold one to use, because do you remember the movie Pan? I don't. But there's a sequence in the movie Pan where Hugh Jackman as Hook is coming out and the kids are singing Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I'm like, this is surreal and not good. I don't, it's not, but like fascinating.
But it's bold. It's
bold. I don't know if it works. Here, though, the use of Smells Like Teen Spirit did work significantly better, I think.
Sure, that's a fair point. There wasn't much that worked in Pan's favor, to be fair. I think you and I are the only two who sat through that thing. That was one of the biggest bombs like 6-7 years ago.
I
But
can't tell you a single thing about that movie anymore.
no, neither can I, honestly. You just reminded me about that because I think I even wrote about that in my review. And I do like how they incorporate American Pie by Don McLean in here.
And that works. It works because
that works. It does.
espionage. It's like the TV show The Americans, which I watched for like 2 episodes, I think. But I get that. So I do like it.
And it's always any chance I get to everybody at the radio station, and all my friends have heard me say this. I don't know if you have though, about the meaning of American Pie. It's one of my all-time favorite interview quotes. Don McLean. You know where I'm going with this?
I love Don McLean, but yeah, go ahead.
Don McLean, one of his great lines in an interview. They asked him, "What does American Pie mean?" And he just looked and smiled and said, "It means I never have to work again."
Yep.
Everybody's probably sick of me saying that. I always
quick
have
aside.
to say
Sorry,
that.
quick aside. You work at a radio station. Have you ever played? Do you ever play the shortened version, or do you play the long version, the full thing? Full thing.
You know what's funny? We have both versions. We have the 450 version and the 8-minute version. For some reason, like they swap in and out. Sometimes you get the long version. Sometimes you get the short version. You can always tell. I don't want to go into too much detail, but you can always tell when the long version's in the log if like the log starts to run late. Like you can always start to see that.
Yeah.
It's either that or Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty, which is 6 minutes long. That's another one. Or Paradise by the Dashboard Light by Meatloaf. These long ass songs. But yeah, we have both versions actually of American Pie. But that's still a quintessential song. To wrap it up, because I do want to have time for the box office talk, I'm going to give Black Widow 3 stars. My review's at stevepulaski.com, my full thoughts. I liked it. I liked that it was leaner than most Marvel movies have been recently. I think it's an odd start to Phase 4, though. I truly do. And I'm starting to get to the point I mentioned to you previously. I'm starting to get to the point now where I'm feeling a little bit more out of the loop because now they do have these TV shows and I've only watched WandaVision. And at this point, I've almost had enough with superhero movies. Going forward, I'm really picking and choosing what I want to see. Yeah. I'm really just picking and choosing the sequels I want to see and the odd ones that I have no expectation for, and I just am kind of curious to see what the hell they're going to do with it. And I know probably not many people even care, but like that's just how I'm going to do it as opposed to trying to see all of them and build to the comprehensive whole. Because in my mind, I saw Avengers Endgame. That was the explosion of the volcano here. And now it's like there's an ember here and there I want to investigate, but I'm not really married to this series and this universe like I once was. This still is solid though. Far for me to damn a good movie from being great. It's 3 out of 4 stars. Dom, you can send us home on Black Widow.
Just one more meta thing, which is that as long as Marvel could somewhat cleanly get to Endgame and execute Endgame itself, well, that's all I ever cared about. It's like, can you prove to the world that it is possible? Maybe it's samey, maybe it's formulaic, maybe there's hits and misses, but at least you don't drop the ball completely like DC did. And like you actually prove you can do something here, and it did that, and I'm cool with it. Anything after that, gravy. And Black Widow is an interesting part of that gravy. As someone who watched WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I actually am excited to see more TV. In fact, I want to watch Loki at some point. And not that I'm religiously that into it, but one, I have Disney Plus, might as well, right? And two, I just think it fits the serial format better. Or rather, a serialized approach to these stories works better.
I wouldn't deny that.
Yeah, it's these are comic books. If anything, that's harkening better back to kind of the roots in a weird way. But yeah, Black Widow itself, dude. Okay, Florence Pugh, man, she puts it over the top. Her scenes, they made me literally laugh out loud. And so I'm gonna give it 3 out of 4. I'm gonna be generous here. It does suck that Black Widow herself is overshadowed, and it's not for the lack that Scarlett Johansson can't act or anything, but I think really it was the writing approach here and just the placement of this movie and the context of it all. Things are working against her in this way. So yeah, interesting start, but in terms of the feature films, but I can't deny I had some good moments here. So I'm gonna give it a solid 3 out of 4 for Black Widow.
We'll move forward, then talk about the box office. Power to Dominic, still battling through those hiccups since the start of the show.
Apologize.
Since the
Thank
midway
you.
for the show. It is what it is. You can't do nothing about it. I appreciate you being the warrior that you are. And man, did a nice little bit of news land on our doorstep. And before I could even look at the box office report for Monday and the weekend, Joe hit us with this. So Joe may not be on the show, but he is being a far-flung correspondent here because he did send this information. And man, was I excited to get this in the group chat and dive into this week. So Disney did something pretty groundbreaking this weekend. And I have a theory on why they did it, and I'll get into that in the end. But the figures for Black Widow are out. And they actually released the Disney Plus figures as well, because this is available on Disney Plus Premier Access for $30. That $30 rental fee, they did it for Mulan, they did it for Raya and the Last Dragon, and I think this is the third one they've done it for. I think this is only number 3 that they've done it for, because Artemis Fowl obviously was free. Jungle Cruise is coming up in a couple weeks.
Why did you say that name?
Everybody did. Jungle Cruise is in a couple of weeks. They're doing the Premier Access thing with that as well. I don't think this one's going to be grossing no $60 million on Disney Plus, but that's right. Black Widow made $60 million on Disney Plus while debuting to $80 million domestic at the box office in America. That rounds it to a total, even in factoring overseas, it made $218 million opening weekend, including Disney Plus subscriptions. So if you want to factor in that $218 million weekend, Disney Plus accounted for 27% of the opening weekend, which is significant. More than a quarter of the opening weekend was thanks to Disney Plus. And if you want to break down the math even further, God bless Hollywood Reporter, they did it for me. That means there's 103 million subscribers to Disney Plus. That means about 2 million footed the bill for the $30 fee to watch Black Widow. And I actually went to the bar on Friday night, truthfully, after seeing Black Widow, writing the review and eating dinner. I went to the bar, and I was talking to the bartender a little bit who I'm good friends with, and she was even saying she's a wife and she's a mother of 2 kids, and she was saying how she was going to rent it off of Disney Plus because for her husband, and her 2 kids to watch it, $30 is a bargain versus a trip to the movies, to which I can't argue with her. And I think a lot of people had that rationale with Black Widow. And this is the thing, they don't release these numbers often. This is the first time a major studio has released these numbers. Now, HBO Max, it's trickier with Warner releasing them because they're the movies that are in theaters in conjunction with being released on HBO Max, like Space Jam: A New Legacy coming up. You had also In the Heights and The Conjuring, Devil Made Me Do It. You don't have to pay extra for those on HBO Max, so it's kind of hard to talk. You can't really decipher figures on that outside of watches and viewers. But with this, they didn't release it for Mulan and they didn't release it for Raya opening weekend, and they did it for this. Now, my suspicion to that, and I'll throw it over to you, here's why I think they did it. I don't expect this going forward. I don't think we're going to get the Jungle Cruise figures opening weekend. I really don't. I don't even know how well that thing's going to do, truthfully. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if anybody else is, but the thing being, though, is I think why they did it, this is just my assumption, to take out the $60 million that it made on Disney Plus, and that's about a 160 round up, $160 million opening weekend. Dude, 200 million sounds better than 160 million.
Yep.
That's why I think they did it. I think they did it because it pushed them over that $200 million threshold. It's the highest grossing opening weekend in America since the pandemic began.
Yep.
I think that's why they did it personally. It helped them, and it made them look even better. It made going back to Black Widow, my review, it made a good performance look great.
Yeah, they wouldn't release those numbers if they were meager. If it was like, 8 million, I don't think they would have done that. And I wonder if, like, let's say it made more in theaters, but significantly less on the streaming service, would they still do, like, let's say it's 192 in the theaters, made up numbers, but it was like 8 million in streaming. Would they still release those numbers? I I don't know, maybe not, but 60 million, that looks really good for your streaming service. That puts you over that 200 million. It saves your face on Black Widow because that movie kept on getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. It's the first the first female-led Marvel movie, I believe.
No, Captain Marvel.
You're right. Thank you.
Everybody forgets Captain Marvel. Yeah.
I'm forgetting. Honestly, like that just goes to show you how out of the loop I am in terms of the Marvel.
Well, if you want to go back, there was Elektra. There was Elektra too.
Okay, shut the hell up. But yeah, it just looks good all around, and I don't think they needed any. But there's been speculation, completely unfounded, but there's been speculation like, oh, did Scarlett Johansson's people or whatever want to put those numbers out? I'm like, I don't even think you needed to do that. I think Disney wanted those numbers out because it looks damn good. And it's like, honestly, since I think A Quiet Place Part 2 was the post-pandemic champion before, but now it's clearly in Disney's court, and it looks damn good right now. So yeah. Damn good.
For sure. And I also think, too, the other thing that's been underreported, and I think it's because, Disney was like, here's how much we made on Disney Plus. All the box office pundits went nuts and all the media was like, oh, my God, look at this. The thing that's being underreported here, and this may be nothing, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see how it performs in its second weekend, given Space Jam is coming out as well as Escape Room. That's going to challenge Escape Room 2 is not, but I just think I'm curious to see how it performs. But the other thing, though, is that this is being underreported. The Friday to Saturday drop for ticket sales for Black Widow was steeper than any Marvel movie yet.
Really?
From Friday to Saturday, it was down 41%. And that, I think, might have been, I don't know if it would have been the headlining story, but it would have definitely been a bigger story had they not released those Disney Plus figures. It really doesn't matter because the damn thing did great at the box office and on streaming. I think a lot of people were projecting it to gross 90 million opening weekend, but it's still a pandemic to begin with, and this thing is on Disney Plus. So I think that 80 million is still nothing to sneer at for a movie like this. No. But that I read that in the Hollywood Reporter, though, is that it dropped 41% from Friday to Saturday, and you're not hearing that. That's the steepest Friday to Saturday drop, because usually it's not a drop. Usually it's up.
Right.
Usually it's up or a slight drop.
In a traditional
41% drop.
Yeah, in a traditional market, in a traditional landscape, yeah, certainly, particularly for an Avenger movie, not Avengers, but it stars an Avenger. I'd definitely be doing that. But in the post-pandemic world, the rules are it's still COVID rules here.
For sure,
half wearing that mask, half not. No one knows what to do really, and apparently neither do moviegoers because they'll flood it on opening. Honestly, it's all the nerds. It's all the freaking nerds, dude. They all come out on Friday, and it's like, all right, that was it. I'm good. And then now those nerds have families. It's like, we missed the opening day, so let's just buy it on Disney Plus. It's $30. We could justify it, just like your friend said. And I honestly, that line of reasoning does make sense. So.
It makes a ton of sense. I'm not going to argue with that. I mean, and then not to mention, too, $30, like if you have a family of 4, that factors into what? $7, $8, about $7, $7.50 a person, give or take some change. And then like you have the privilege, you don't have to buy snacks, and you have the privilege of pausing.
Dude,
which you do not have. And that's a luxury.
As someone who has the ability to pause a movie, go to the freaking bathroom and not have to like deal with that. It's like, oh no, torture scene on screen, and I'm going to be right there with you because I'm torturing my bladder right now. And it's like,
yep.
God damn, that was, dude. When I started watching movie, when the pandemic hit, I'm like, damn, I don't really do this that much for like big premiere. Obviously, I watch movies at home, but big premiere movies, it was so weird, like a revelation. We can cook our own popcorn and stuff. We can do the good popcorn and butter it just the right amount instead of drenching it. And dude, again, not to bemoan the actual theater experience, but it works for some people, and I think just in the same way that people are returning to the office, people are not going to let go of working from home, or at least they're going to try their damned hardest to not let go of that
If they have the
new
option, just like with
perk.
like renting a movie
Right.
on streaming. I mean,
Exactly.
this is a conversation for another day, but even the theatrical window has shrunk. Like Quiet Place Part 2, you can rent it on Vudu for $20 now. Like Quiet Place is on there now. Those Who Wish Me Dead is on there now. After 2 months after, HBO Max, The Engagement, and then it was in theaters as well. So like you're getting a shrunken theatrical window to begin with. It's interesting though. And regardless, it's a boon to theaters. It's great to be back to the theaters. I'm looking forward to Escape Room Tournament of Champions this weekend. I'm probably going to watch Space Jam at home on Friday just because it's more conducive to my schedule. But I'm going to watch Escape Room in the theater this weekend. I might even check out, no promises, but I might, if my schedule permits, I might go see that Roadrunner movie about Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, that looked interesting.
I might go see that, doc. At any rate, that's our show for Sleepless with Steve today. Great Black Widow review. Dom, big shout out to him. Man in the board over there. Joe will, by the grace of God, be back next week to review Space Jam: A New Legacy. Also, for a pro tip for everybody watching and for you, Dom, if you care, Space Jam, the original one, is on HBO Max if you care to rewatch it. I did earlier this week.
I just might do that because I did watch on YouTube the opening montage, where they play Space Jam, come on and slam, and it's like, god damn, they make young Michael Jordan look like a Greek god descending from basketball heaven and gracing the peasants with his greatness. Because got like bum 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 ba da bum, and then like the lights and everything, bum 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 ba da bum. Bugs Bunny, come on and slam. God damn, that hits hard. And
that opening is great. That opening is
so
great.
good.
I kept waiting. I rewatched it on Monday, and I thought to myself, I'm like, I just keep waiting for press start to show up on the screen. It was fun. It's on HBO Max. It's an hour and 18 minutes without credits. So this thing,
are you kidding? Was it really that short?
It's that short. It's an hour and 18
crap.
without credits.
No wonder I watched it so much as a kid.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's a perfect lunchtime movie.
Dude. Yeah, dude. Okay.
Check it out on HBO Max. I would recommend that you do because it's just a fun thing to watch, and I got even more enjoyment out of it. It makes me more hesitant for the sequel, but Joe will be back to talk Space Jam: A New Legacy next week as well. Depending on whether or not I like it, depending on how high my hopes are, because I actually just got done about 2 hours ago watching Escape Room, the first movie again. And I'm a big fan of that movie. I really will stand on a hill for that movie, that horror movie from a couple years ago. The sequel comes out this weekend. I'm going to see it this weekend. If I like it enough, I might do a solo review of it next week. If I like it enough and there's stuff to say about it, I might do a solo review of that. But again, Joe will be back next week. Look forward to it. For Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso in spirit, and Steve Pulaski, this has been Sleepless with Steve.